Good morning from my parents' garden. This week is my father's 70th birthday, so we decided to make the 8-hour-long journey from the Netherlands in order to be able to celebrate with my family here in the Czech Republic. And the party will be tomorrow, but today we're at my parents' weekend house because obviously I wanted to check on the garden here. My parents live in the city of Pilsen, which is quite a large city. They have an apartment on the 6th floor, but in 1986, when I was 11, they bought this old farmhouse, which back then was in a very bad shape, to have some place to go on the weekends and during our summer holidays. This is something that is very common in the Czech Republic. Almost every family has some kind of summer house in the country to use this way. When my parents bought this house, there were several large fruit trees, and there are still some left. There are 2 standard apple trees and a large pear tree over there. There are also 2 walnut trees. But over the years we've added many more fruit trees, bushes and perennial vegetables. And it's very nice because I've been coming here for my summer holiday since I was 11. It's really nice to have so much to harvest in the summer when we're here. But because the soil here is different from my soil in the Netherlands and the climate is a little different, it also allows me to gain experience on how plants behave under different conditions. Just like in our garden in the Netherlands, 2018 is shaping out to be a great year for fruit. So let me give you a little tour of what we've got growing here. I want to start with the apples. And one of the apple trees that was on this plot, the large one behind me, is a very early ripening variety called Ýellow transparent. It's an old heirloom variety, and it always ripens just when we're here at the beginning of August. So that's great. But we wanted some apples for storage, so we added 3 apple trees on dwarfing rootstock. You can see they're still quite large because the soil here is really good. There are 3 modern Czech varieties, Rubinola, Sirius and Lipno. So these were all bred in the Czech Republic quite recently, and they were also, apart from good taste, they were bred for scab resistance. So these are varieties that are very well suited to organic growing. Next to the apples we planted quince. It's a variety called Champion. You can see the apples finished flowering, but the quince is flowering now, and it's such a beautiful tree. It has some of the most beautiful blossoms in fruit trees, and it's in the lower part of the garden, which is wetter. The soil here is wetter, and quince can take that, unlike some other fruit trees. Over on the other side we have a row of fruiting bushes. There's a very good red variety of red currant, but it's one that was already on the plot, so I do not know what variety it is, but it's quite sweet for red currant. Then there are 2 gooseberries, and actually we planted 4 of them. As you can see, these are grafted on a rootstock, which makes them easier to pick, and we had 4 of those, but in 2 cases, these middle 2 bushes, the graft died, probably frozen in the first winter. But the rootstock that it was grafted on is that is usually used for this purpose is crandallberry or odoratum, and it also produces edible berries, quite nice tasting berries. So we just let the rootstock grow. They also have beautiful yellow, very fragrant blossom that the scent is reminiscent of cloves. So, well, that's something you can do. You can just roll with it when things don't go the way you wanted them to. So the 2 gooseberry varieties that we have here are Pax, this one, and Rodnik over there, and they're both mildew resistant because that's a disease that gooseberries are very prone to. And again, when you're growing organically, it pays to choose disease-resistant varieties. Pax here is not only mildew resistant, but also thornless, which makes picking much easier because the older varieties of gooseberries can have very annoying thorns. And as you can see, it's full of fruits. Like everything this year is full of fruits. Over here I have a variety of elderberry called black lace, and you can see it has beautiful dark purple leaves, and it will also have pink blossoms, but it's not flowering quite yet. I planted this variety in my garden in the Netherlands as well, but it's not that big yet. Next to it is Josta, which is a cross between gooseberry and black currant, also bred for disease resistant. And in fact, this is a cutting from a plant that I have in my backyard that you maybe saw in the tour of our backyard video. I did that with many varieties here. Some we bought, but some are from cuttings from my own garden. The tree here is a plum variety called Jojo, and we planted it together with my father in 2010, just like the apples that I showed you earlier. So you can see how much growth it put on in the almost 8 years since planting. However, we have not really been able to taste the fruits yet, because plums flower quite early in spring and are more susceptible to frost than apples and pears. And this part of the garden and this area is quite cold. This year it is full of fruits, so I'm hoping we'll be able to taste some. The variety is resistant to the Charka virus, which is quite a big problem here in the Czech Republic, but luckily not so much in the Netherlands. Many people say that breeding for resistance against disease can have negative impact on the taste, but we'll have to decide for ourselves how we like them. Behind the plum tree we have many more fruiting bushes, so follow me. The variety of hazelnut I have over here is called Webb's Prize Cup, and from all the hazelnuts that I've tasted, this is my favorite. So I want to grow it in my own garden too. I have not planted it yet, but we'll do this year. Then on the other side we have 2 bushes of honeyberry or haskap, and these are very hardy from Siberia, so really cold hardy. You need 2 different varieties for pollination, and the great thing about them is that they ripen earlier than currants or gooseberries, so very early in the season, and they prolong your harvest season that way. And again, I don't know whether you can see it, lots of fruits on these. The flowering tree over here is chokeberry, which has very vitamin rich berries, but they're not nice to eat raw. They're very good for juices and compotes though. Next to it is a variety of hawthorne, large fruited hawthorne called Arnoldiana, Crategus arnoldiana. And again, it's full of, it has not flowered yet, but it's full of flower buds. And this bush too, we have not had any harvest from before, so I'm really looking forward to tasting the fruits this year. Then next to the hawthorn, I have a compact variety of juneberry, of Amelan here, which is called Prince William. This was planted, I think 8-9 years ago, and you can see it's still quite small, so this is a variety very well suited to small gardens. And also juneberries are extremely popular with birds, which is not a huge problem here, much less than in the Netherlands anyway. But a compact bush allows you, it's easier to protect with netting or something like that if you want to do that. Then behind that is a variety of cornelian cherry called Joliko, which again is a large fruited cornelian cherry. As I mentioned before, this area is quite cold, or it has colder winters than our garden in the Netherlands. On the other hand, it has warmer summers. So when we wanted to plant a grape here, it was important to, 1, choose a suitable variety, and 2, choose a suitable microclimate. Here's this beautiful stone wall. So that's a perfect, it's south facing, a perfect spot for a grape. The variety I planted here is called Sovereign Coronation. It's a seedless variety, it's quite hardy, and I also grow it successfully in my garden in the Netherlands. But here it benefits from the extra protection of the wall. The stones accumulate warmth during the day and keep the plant from freezing in winter. and they also help the fruits to ripen. As you can see, hopefully, there are already lots of flower buds here too. And then under the grape we put some herbs. There's mint here and lemon balm, and there are also some tulips planted in between. This was the lower part of the garden, but there's more upstairs, so let me show you that too. There are less plants here. It's mostly grass with lots of dandelions. As you can see, we have a little campfire site here, and there's a huge walnut tree at the back that was planted not by my parents but the previous owners. And I planted some raspberries. This is a full raspberry over there, and some raspberry and blackberry hybrids along the fence. And for some viewers, this rose might look familiar because I showed it to you in my plant haul video from last year. It's called Munstead Wood, and it's a rose that I bought for my mother's birthday. I needed quite a hardy rose because, as I said, the winters here can be quite cold, and it's growing beautifully. There are lots of flower buds, so success, I would say. Here under the walnut tree I have a fruiting bush, which has a funny history. It's a seedling that I found, a chance seedling from our garden, and if you grow berries you will find seedlings like that. It's fun sometimes to let them grow and see what the fruits will be like. They can be anything, berries, cross, hybridize. As you can see, this is not the next great variety because the fruits are too sparse, but they're edible, and if you have the space, experiments like this are really fun. Then I have a little flower patch over here with different flowers from our garden, cuttings again, and then, very important in any organic garden, compost bin. I find this bin system really smart solution. I would not mind having a couple in my own garden, but my parents have had this one for over 25 years, so they're no longer available. And very simple, you can just kind of click the metal plates in each other and you can slide any one of them up, which means that you can take out the ripe compost. You can see under here it's ripe and beautiful, and it's accessible from any side, because this is often a problem with bins, that they only have opening at the front. So yeah, good product. The last thing I want to show you is this little strip along the house where I planted different varieties of perennial vegetables that I grew from seed. And when you grow from seed, you always have more than you need. So I brought some over here and I planted them in my parents' garden. There are perennial onions. This is Welsh onion. And then there's sea kale. Sea kale can be blanched. And my mother put one of a little bucket here. So this plant has been blanched. We'll be harvesting it today and enjoying it lightly steamed. And then there is fennel, bronze fennel, very beautiful plant, and one that attracts a lot of beneficial insects as well. Now, because this is quite a sheltered spot, we always plant tomatoes plants here as well. My mother has already planted one here, but I brought some. Like I said, you always have more seedlings than you need. So these are some that I grew for our garden but did not have any space left for, and we'll be planting them between the perennial vegetables. And again, because it does not rain here as much, the tomatoes are less prone to blight, and they benefit from the extra warmth of the wall. As you can see, there's so much growing here and so much potential. I'm already looking forward to our summer vacation. I will try to film a harvest video then. If you enjoyed this little tour of my parents' garden, please give the video a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time. Happy gardening!